Welcome to the 13th day of December 2023. This Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Hot Springs County Travel and Tourism, reminding you that as temperatures drop and snow is on the horizon, at Thermopolis, you can always find yourself in hot water. Well, there's a great snapshot in that photo there by Jana of how it was over some portions of the high plains yesterday. Upslope fog and freezing drizzle from the light snows that came in from the storm system that is now going to move into the southern areas, as we showed you over the last couple of days, going to be impactful. The upslope conditions along some front range areas will continue while it's going to be clearing out over a large portion of the central and northern Rockies and the central and northern plains. There's really not much going on. The storm is going to get itself better organized in the southwest United States, then head eastward. As we'll show you, the door is wide open for a lot of moisture to get drawn into the storm system. So that means the rain and the snow for parts of Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma is on schedule. We're still expecting we're going to have some travel hazards. I-25 in southern Colorado and I-25 in New Mexico, Interstate 40 into those areas. If you've got travel plans, it's going to be wintry down there. And this will be the most significant winter event in that area in quite a while. Now, everywhere else, though, it is going to be very, very quiet, really boring weather for most of the central and northern plains and the central and the northern Rockies and even the Pacific Northwest and into the Great Basin. It's just going to be a very quiet stretch of weather that's going to go a good 7 days of not much going on. However, we've got a lot going on in the Pacific, and this is going to lead to changes down the road. And then we have a very large divergence in our computer modeling. In the middle of next week, there's a change coming. It's just whether it's going to happen during the middle to the end of next week or wait till the weekend just before Christmas. When we get into these situations, and this is why I always show you these big discrepancies in the forecast, is a reminder. When you start to see these big divergences in the data, you have a red flag that goes up, which means you do not trust the forecast that really goes out past 5 days. I don't care where you're getting your forecast from. We're in a period now in the western United States where we're very confident over the next 5 to 6 days or so. After that, we don't know. And we're just being honest to tell you that. We don't know, but we do see changes. And how those changes evolve will be interesting, but they're going to happen. We just got too much energy going out in the Pacific. This is a great shot here from Estes Park above all of that soupy weather that you found along the Front Range and plains in some locations. You get up in the mountains and you were above all that soupiness, that freezing drizzle, that fog, and the light snow flurries. The satellite imagery this morning going to show you two photos. You can see the clouds associated with the low that is now coming down into the southwestern areas of the United States. Notice there's a very good looking flow of clouds coming on up in from here and also into here. The counterclockwise rotation of air around that low is helping to draw that moisture northward. Notice the clouds are getting up to about here with the low. Clear conditions up here. The blue you see is low stratus clouds or areas of fog. But most of the west here, high pressure is going on through. This low now is detached from the main jet stream. Out in the Pacific, this is a hot mess. We have just got a lot going on. We've got a deep low right here showing up very, very well. We've got another low going up into Alaska, the Northwest Territories, northern British Columbia. We've got very strong moist jet stream winds going across the North Pacific. There's a lot going on. The more variables, the more things you throw into a computer model, the more that's going on, the more complex it's going to get. And this is why more errors are in the forecast as you go further down the road. When you have one error in a model or one thing that's not quite right and you project that over time, it's going to lead to problems. And that's why we have this big model divergence out 5 to 7 days from now. So you can see the detachment of that low over the desert southwest that has developed now. So this system is going to draw that moisture northward as it moves eastward. And this is why we're going to see the wet weather in the southern areas. So this is where we are today. This is where we are by Friday morning. So it's a good 2 days here for the system to traverse those areas. So it's going to be around for a while, and due to the slow movement, that's why it's going to get wet. This shows precipitable water. This is the same graphic we'll show you during the warm season to help us predict where the thunderstorm action is going to be. But if you look at as this progresses over time, you can see the funneling of the moisture from Central America and Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico converging right into here. Then you can see the swirl of the clouds as the low heads out on into the plains. There you go, right there. You can see the comma shape over the Texas Panhandle. Now you're wondering, we're getting all this moisture that's going up here into the Dakotas. Why isn't it going to snow there? Well, that's under high pressure. That moisture is not going to be able to be converted into snow until it runs in and overruns some colder air up here in the northern plains and the northern Great Lakes later on. You'll see that on the graphic. But that's very impressive to see that big latitude shift from the lower latitudes to the higher latitudes due north, and also being brought back westward for a little bit as well. So that's where all that moisture is going to come from to end up resulting in this. The very wet weather in Texas, Oklahoma, parts of southern and southwest Kansas. Really, the I-70 corridor is really the line here between where the heavier moisture is going to be. You get north of I-70, you're in the soup. You're in the lighter precipitation, the low clouds, the fog, the cool, cloudy weather. But you get north of that low, there's not much going on. There's the overrunning that I just showed you there from the model, but it's very dry elsewhere, very, very quiet. So this low going to also produce a fair amount of snow, significant snow in those areas. So this is something that's been very consistent that we've been seeing over the next couple of days. So confidence is quite high in those areas of getting rain, then snow on the back side of the system with significant rain on the warm sector in that area. Now, as we go out to Monday, that low is all the way now sliding quickly, gets accelerated by Monday. It's going to cause some rainy, windy, stormy weather along the East Coast. Here's the high pressure ridge that comes into the central U.S., the Rockies. So this is why it's going to be a rather boring stretch of weather. But as we go out further, this is where things really diverge. So basically, from this weekend through at least Wednesday of next week, there's just high pressure dominated weather in the west after that storm in the south moves out. But this is where we go into the big changes in the divergence of what's going to go on. So we'll do what we normally do when we have these big discrepancies. And then the fun part is we get to find out which model was right or which combination of the modeling was right, or if any of them are right. Here's the European model. This is for Thursday morning, the 21st. So this is 21st of December. What we have is a strong low off the coast of California. This would be a very wet period of weather for the West Coast. California would see significant rain, heavy snows in the Sierra Nevada, as the low wants to, on the European model, almost attach itself and just kind of wander very slowly. That would pump in more warmer than average air out ahead of it across the plain states well into the end of next week, basically extending the fair, warmer weather conditions. But as we take a look at the American model, the GFS, here we go with gigantic differences. I mean, you're looking at a huge difference in the weather forecast. And remember, the weather forecast you get on your phone or weather you're going to get is going to be based on a model that is just one model. And so we have a big difference here. So here's the European, here's the American model, here's the Canadian. Now the Canadian and the American model both agree that the low won't get hung up on the West Coast, while the European says no, it's going to hang up on the West Coast, take a couple more days before it moves into the Rockies. And it will eventually move into the Rockies. It's just a matter of when. But the difference in the weather forecast is night and day. This would be a warm Thursday in the central and northern Rockies of next week and a dry one. This would be a sharply colder pattern for late next week, and one with snow in the mountains and some snow on the plains and temperatures that'll be much colder, to some extent the Canadian as well. So stay tuned. The middle to the end of next week leading up to Christmas time, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Well, too many question marks to be sure of anything, but certainly the middle to the end of next week and beyond, the weather is going to change. In the meantime, not much going on other than for you folks in southern Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Have yourself a very good Wednesday.